First-year Cardinals head coach, teams 1-5. Kyler Murray back on the practice field. Doesn't mean he's going to play anytime soon. You open the window when the player comes back. The window stays open for a certain period of time, and then you get to the end of that period. I think it's 5 weeks. At the end of that period, you've either got to put him on the active roster or shut him down for the balance of the year. The anticipation has been, the expectation has been that he's going to play this year. Now, the other side of that, and this is a point Mike Lombardi made weeks ago, and it makes sense. There are significant injury guarantees that become full guarantees in the future. And if they are thinking about going in a different direction at quarterback, there is a reason to not play him this year, a business reason to not play him this year, because if he can't pass a physical before the date on which the guarantees flip, they're stuck. And simply pointing that out, and I'm impressed that Cardinals fans can be so passionate and loyal about their team, given how dysfunctional the front office seems to be, specifically ownership level, and the fact that the team's 1-5. They are very loyal, and they are very rabid. And now that Kyler Murray's back, the reaction is, hey, take that, Florio. See, you said he's not playing this year. You said he's not. It's like, people, let's be fair with what the point is. The point is there's a business reason for the Cardinals to not play him this year if they're thinking about moving on. Because if they play him this year and he gets injured again, they're stuck with all the millions that are currently injury guaranteed. They become full guarantees, and they can't get away from the contract. If they're thinking about moving on, there is a business reason to not play him this year. And it looks like they're going to go ahead and roll the dice, Chris. I don't know that it's going to make much of a difference, but the fact that he's back at practice 6 weeks into the season tells me that, unless they're going to slow play it and the doctors are going to tell him that he's not medically cleared when maybe he could be, unless there's some game they're going to play to keep him off the field, it sure looks like he's going to be playing.
Right. I mean, at some point, Kyler Murray's going to want to play. I mean, they can't hold him out here forever. If he's medically cleared, he's feeling good, he's throwing good, he's running around good, he's going to want to play ball. I think the other thing too is, we talk about, maybe they'll draft a quarterback. It could be Caleb Williams. It could be Michael Penix Jr. up at Washington. Maybe Drake May at North Carolina, one of those guys. As we know, there's no guarantee you do get one of those guys. You don't know for sure. And I think if you're smart about this, and listen, there's always risk. It's football. We know that, and you explained it the right way. But I think they got to see what Kyler Murray is too. They got to see a little bit. What is he made of? Let me see what he looks like in this offense, what Jonathan Gannon talks about. They got a little talent there on that offense at receiver, and they can be dangerous where they're a handful. They're pretty creative on the offensive side of the ball. And then you throw in, a quarterback who can move around and run a little bit, and we know has the threat to run the ball. They could be really a pain in the butt there on that side. So I think they got to look at it too and just tinker and kind of see what they got before they start to go, hey, we're going to ship off something that's, really talented and got a lot of special things about him. We're just going to ship him off to roll the dice on, hey, maybe we'll get one of the other three guys. Maybe we'll do it, and also within that too, what if he really impresses them, blows them away, and okay, now everything's, we like him. Now you don't have to maybe trade assets to move up to get one of those quarterbacks, and now you could use those assets to build your football team and all that. So I think there's a lot of at play here that they're probably figuring out in Arizona, and I don't think they got any choice here when it's all said and done whether they're going to play Kyler Murray.
Jonathan Gannon said as to when Murray will play, it's an organizational decision, but he's a big part of that. That whole concept of organizational decision gets back to what we saw last year. Remember when, out of the blue, Matt Ryan was benched, and it was clearly to ensure that he would be able to pass a physical before they pulled the plug on $17 million in injury guarantees that became fully guaranteed in March. If he gets injured last year and can't pass a physical by that date, they owe him another $17 million on top of what they already gave him for not quite a full year of not quite high-end football performance. We saw it with Derek Carr last year. End of the season, all of a sudden, he's gone. Why is he gone? Because he's got $40 million in injury guarantees that become fully vested right after the Super Bowl. We can't let this guy be in a position where he fails to pass a physical, because if we can't trade him, we are going to cut him. And people are like, oh, surely they're not going to do that. They just signed him to a $20 whatever million a year contract, or $40 million contract, excuse me. The market's gone up dramatically. It was 25 the last time, 40 million this time. And oh, they're not going to, oh, you're crazy. You're nuts. You're high. Oh, and they cut him. So these are the clues that we're searching for. And Lombardi laid it out very well on McAfee's show back in late August. The idea that the culture's changing, management's changed, coaching has changed. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. Isaiah Simmons is gone. Kyler Murray is part of the old regime. Does this new regime want him? Chris, you've said it yourself. There's plenty of coaches in the NFL that would never want Kyler Murray on their team because he's too short.
Right.
It doesn't matter what he can do. He's too short. I don't want a guy that size as my quarterback.
Yeah.
It's going to cut out, what, half the league? 2/3 of the league? I don't know. But, the point is this. There is a very real business reason, an incentive to not play him this year. That's part of what they're working their way through. The other side of it is we need people to come to the games. And they're not coming to the games to see a winning team. Maybe they'll come to the games to see Kyler Murray. We got to put Kyler Murray out there. We got to roll the dice. Otherwise, we're going to be playing to a house of 10,000 people, and they're going to be all fans of the visiting team. That's part of the business reality, too. So it's a complicated situation. They have to consider all factors. But one of the factors is, if we're thinking about moving on from this guy after the season and he gets injured again, our hands are going to be tied. And we're going to have to pay him a lot of money that we otherwise would foist onto some other team.
Yeah, it's not easy. It definitely is a delicate balance there. And I think, what you're talking about as far as the old regime, right, and all that, I think that's real. Of course, the size of the quarterback and all that is not, not everybody loves Kyler Murray's size. Yes, I mean, very true. I would have had a hard time drafting him, right? I'm kind of old school. Yeah, New York Giants, New England Patriots type of guy. I want a big pocket passing type of quarterback, right? But I will say, too, I think they got to give him the right to prove himself a little bit to, hey, he was spoiled, I think, for lack of a better way to say it, under Cliff Kingsbury. It was, his old buddy, and the red carpet was laid out there just for Kyler Murray. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was hired just because of Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray came in as a rookie and knew the offense better than any of the veterans because it was an offense he ran in college. So he kind of got, spoiled in football terms because of that here. This is going to be a total adjustment for him. He's not king of the castle completely here with the new regime. But I think that his talent is great enough that you see where this goes a little bit, and you see what he's made of. And let's see if he can be a leader and be the right guy that we want, as far as the general of our football team at the quarterback position. And, hey, wait, we got some things here in our offense that are kind of good. I mean, their offense is pretty creative. It really is. And then you talk about, hey, Hollywood and Rondale Moore and the kid they drafted out of Stanford and Michael Wilson. He's a hell of a player. They're a top 10 running football team in the NFL. What will they be if Kyler Murray and the threat of him running is there? So I think that's why they got to do this for themselves here and check this out a little bit. Drew Petzing, their offensive coordinator, he does a good job. And like I said, I think it's, worth the risk to find out whether he's the guy and that injury risk and all of that, and maybe he could be the future. One, because of his talent, but two, I think also because, like we said, there's no guarantee you're going to get one of those guys for sure that you want next year, unless you trade to number one. And, of course, then we'll know you'll have to trade some assets, or maybe they'll lose every game here. I don't know. But I think there's gamble in that as well. So I expect to see Kyler Murray on the field, I guess is what I'm saying, in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Hey, buddy, there aren't a lot of wins lurking on the remainder of the Arizona Cardinals schedule. They're at the Seahawks this week. They've got the Ravens. They're at the Browns. They've got the Falcons. They're at the Texans. Rams at Steelers, 49ers at Bears, at Eagles, and Seahawks. The only team of the remaining opponents that currently has a losing record is the Bears. Week 16, and who the hell knows what it's going to be doing at Soldier Field in late December when the Cardinals go back to one of the towns where they used to be. They were in St. Louis. and they were in originally Chicago. That's the only team. Everybody else is 3-2, 3-3, or better at this point. And we just saw them struggle against the Rams. Chris, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll surprise somebody the way they surprised the Cowboys. Maybe somebody will look past them. And I don't know how much of a difference Kyler Murray is going to make. But, in the offseason, it seemed clear to me they were not prioritizing winning this year.
Yeah. Agreed.
That is not the same as deliberately trying to lose.
Right.
But they weren't prioritizing winning this year by trading away this year's draft picks, by taking the full DeAndre Hopkins $22 million cap hit this year instead of keeping $11 million around as they easily could have, just in case an opportunity arises at the trade deadline to get a veteran that makes you better this year. They're not prioritizing winning this year, and when you look at the rest of this schedule, prioritizing it or not, there aren't many wins remaining this year for the Cardinals, Chris. That's just reality.
It's going to be tough. We know that. They've played pretty damn good in every game. I mean, been extremely competitive. That's what I'll say. And look at some of those games and go, I sat there and go, well, if they had Kyler Murray, they would have won this game. I mean, even last week, it's 13-9 halfway through the third quarter. It's 16-9 in the fourth quarter. It's not like they're out of it. And when because I've had to watch them on film, of course, I do that. People want to talk about it on the podcast, especially early in the year when they were surprising people a little bit. Their offense is good. Like I said, it's creative. And there was a handful of plays in every game I watched on film where I went, oh man, Dobbs is doing a good job. But if they had a real starting quarterback, man, they had some plays here that would have been, game changers. That's what I'm saying. So, we'll see where this goes. You're right. There's not many teams that are more talented than, but I mean, I don't think it's crazy. I don't know, they could stand toe to toe with the Rams and some of these. They could find 2 or 3 more wins on the schedule is what I'm saying. I guess is what I'm saying. But it's not like they're the most talented team in football or anything like that.
The best case scenario for the Cardinals is this. Show fight every week, but lose anyway. Show spirit and heart and be competitive and try to win and do your best, but just keep coming up short. Because if it's a full-blown tank and the coach is in on it, it's kind of hard to keep the coach next year. That's the other thing that I said that got all twisted around. I said, look, if they do the full-blown tank, they're going to have to do the reset of the coaching staff next year, because when you embrace being bad, you create a culture that is very difficult to reverse. And you got to do what they did with Steve Wilkes after 2018. You got to press the reset button and you got to go get Cliff Kingsbury or whoever they would get.
I know.
But if they can lose while still trying their damnedest to win and keeping games close and giving people just hope that, they got a little something under Gannon, then Gannon stays for next year as they try to turn out of this and maybe draft a franchise quarterback and move forward. So it's working actually pretty well for the Cardinals so far. They've only won 1 game. They're in the mix for the first overall pick. They have a very tough schedule. But like you said, they're not just laying down.
No.
They're playing tough. Will it continue, though, as 1-5 becomes 1-6? And we'll give them a win or 2 there. Let's say 2-10, right? 3-12. Do you really hold it together when you're down at the end of the road and you're just checking the boxes until you get the hell out of the season?
Yeah, it's got to be careful.
The players are playing because the film stays with them and it affects what they're going to do next year. But still, at some point, you just want to get this thing over with and move on.
No, you're right, and you got to be careful. There is the perception, right, and that all of that too. And you're right. I mean, if it goes like, hey, we're 1-16, and even though we were kind of competitive and good, what happens is, that'll get used against you the next year, even if you keep the job. Oh, now you start out the next year, right? And now you start out, we got off to a bad start. We're 1-4. Now everybody starts to go, this guy's 2-20 as a starting coach. And then all of a sudden, everybody just starts to crap all over you and the organization and everything. So there's a fine line here that they got to figure out about what's best for them and just the overall perception of the coaching staff, the organization, and everything that I think you're hitting on and is very real there.
They've got 3 East Coast outdoors games after December 1, at Pittsburgh, at Chicago, at Philly on New Year's Eve. What a flight home that is going to be with one game left in the season after playing the Eagles, unless the Eagles have locked up the 1 seed by then and they're just putting out backups. My gosh, long season for the Arizona Cardinals, but we got to give them credit. They're trying, they're competitive, and the next question is, when will we see Kyler Murray and will it make a difference? Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.